The snow was red where she crawled. Bare knees, torn hands. Each breath sliced her lungs like broken glass. Wind screamed through the trees, biting her skin, but she didn't feel it anymore. He'd kissed her cheek before he left her there, helped her out of the truck like a gentleman, then drove off smiling. Pregnant, alone, bleeding. Lena Carr should have died hours ago. But something inside her kicked, soft and stubborn. The baby, still fighting. She laid a trembling hand over her belly. "Not yet," she whispered. Then she saw it, a faint glow through the trees. Firelight. A cabin maybe, or a trap. Didn't matter. It was the only shot she had. She crawled toward it, body screaming, blood trailing like ribbon in the snow. When she collapsed at the steps, the cabin door creaked open. Boots crunched beside her. Heavy, careful. Then a low voice, rough and edged with something dangerous, said, "Well, hell." And the world went black. Lena Carr's body moved on instinct, hands raw, knees cracked and bleeding. Her thin coat, once ivory wool, now hung in tatters. Wind snapped it open like a flag of surrender, exposing her legs, bare, blue, trembling. She didn't cry. Not anymore. That part of her had gone quiet. Each breath burned like smoke in her chest. She'd stopped feeling her fingers sometime after sunset. Her eyes, swollen and full of blood-crusted lashes, scanned the trees for anything. Shelter, light, a reason to keep crawling. But there was nothing but snow and pine and silence. Until the baby kicked. It wasn't strong, not like before. Just a flutter, a reminder, a warning. She paused, gasping, and curled one arm across her belly. "Not yet," she whispered, her voice cracked like brittle ice. She was too far from town, too far from anyone who gave a damn. Except him, Trevor, the man who promised her forever, then pulled off to the side of the logging road and told her to get out, said she'd made this mess herself. She begged him, cried, clutched his sleeve. He leaned down, kissed her cheek, and smiled. Then he drove away. She remembered the snow kicking up behind his tires. It looked like smoke in the rearview mirror. Now there was smoke again, only this time it wasn't from a truck. It drifted low and gray between the trees, curling against the wind. A chimney. A cabin. Lena pushed forward, her limbs numb, her vision tunneling to that flicker of orange in the trees. With every foot she crawled, her heartbeat got louder, like hooves in her chest. Her body screamed to give up, but she didn't. She reached the porch steps and collapsed, face pressed into the wood, blood soaking the grain. The door creaked open. Boots stepped out, scuffed leather, dusted in snow. A shadow moved above her. "Jesus." The voice was low, rough like gravel dragged across dry ground. Hey, you alive?" She wanted to answer, but everything was turning dark and far away. She heard a curse, felt herself lifted, arms strong but careful. Her head lolled against a bare chest. Heat, real heat. The man smelled like smoke and sweat and cedar. Then nothing. Lena woke to firelight. The cabin walls glowed amber from a wood-burning stove in the corner. Heavy quilts weighed down on her, the scent of wool and tobacco thick in the air. Her body ached, her lips were cracked, every inch of her skin buzzed with pain and warmth. She shifted, groaning. Her belly felt tight, but not in pain, just present. "You're awake." The voice came from the shadows. She startled. A shape leaned forward in the chair near the stove, tall, lean, arms crossed over a bare chest. A stitched scar ran down his left shoulder like a lightning bolt. He didn't smile. thought you were dead." She swallowed. Her throat was dust. I should be." The man tossed her a canteen. She caught it with shaking hands and drank. The water was cold and metallic, but it brought her breath back. "I found you at my doorstep," he said. "Bleeding. You gonna tell me what the hell happened, or should I guess?" His eyes were sharp, blue-gray, the kind of eyes that didn't flinch. She held his stare. "You some kind of cop?" He snorted. "You think a cop lives out here off-grid, 30 miles from the nearest gas station?" "Fair enough," she whispered, then looked away. "You got a name?" "Jesse," he said. "Jesse Rook." Something in the way he said it told her he wasn't used to saying it out loud. She tucked the quilt tighter around her body. "Lena." He nodded once. "You're lucky. Another hour out there, you'd be frozen solid." "Lucky's not the word I'd use." He leaned back in his chair, studying her. "You pregnant?" Her jaw clenched. "Not your business." "I carried you in, checked for wounds. It's my business now." She didn't respond. Jesse stood, walked to the stove, and stirred a pot. Something thick and meaty. Her stomach growled on cue. "You hungry?" She hesitated. "Starving." He ladled stew into a chipped bowl and handed it over. His fingers brushed hers. She flinched, then hated herself for it. He didn't move fast, didn't press, just sat back down, watching. Not like a predator, like someone used to being watched himself. She ate slowly. Every bite felt like stealing life back. Jesse finally broke the silence. "You were bleeding bad. Not just your knees. What happened?" Lena stared into her bowl. Steam rose like ghosts between them. "I got out," she said. "That's all that matters." He didn't push. The fire popped in the stove. "Why'd you help me?" she asked after a while. "You don't know me." Jesse's jaw worked for a second. Then he said, "'Cause I know what it's like to want to die and not quite manage it." That shut her up. She looked at him again. Really looked. The scar, the shadows under his eyes, the distance in his voice. This man wasn't a good Samaritan. He was hiding something, maybe a few somethings. But right now, he was the only reason she and her baby were alive. And maybe, just maybe, he was more than the sum of his sins. The second time Lena woke, it was dark outside. The storm had eased, leaving behind a hush that filled every crack in the log cabin. The fire still burned low in the stove, casting long shadows across the wooden floor. The warmth clung to her skin, too heavy, too good, like a dream she couldn't afford to trust. She blinked, adjusting to the low light. The smell of wood smoke, stew, and something masculine, earthy, unfiltered, filled the room. She wasn't alone. Jesse Rook sat in the corner chair again. This time he had a shirt on, though it hung open, sleeves rolled to the elbow, revealing forearms etched with old scars and newer ones. A pistol sat on the table next to him, casual but close. He was sharpening a hunting knife, the soft drag of steel on stone rhythmic and deliberate. He didn't look at her. "You talk in your sleep," he said, voice gravel thick. Lena tensed under the covers. "What did I say?" Jesse dragged the blade once more before answering. "You begged someone not to leave you." Her chest tightened. "And you just sat there listening?" "I made sure you were breathing. That's more than most folks would do." He finally met her eyes. They were sharp and cold, but not cruel. Just tired. Lena looked away first. She sat up slowly. Her legs were stiff, but the dizziness had passed. Her belly felt heavier now, like the baby had grown in her sleep. Her hand drifted to her stomach. The baby kicked, just a flutter, but it grounded her, made her feel human again. "You're about 6 months?" Jesse asked. She frowned. "What are you, a doctor?" "Number. But I had a sister once. She didn't make it." The silence that followed was thick as syrup. Lena cleared her throat. "You live out here alone?" "Yeah." "No family?" "None worth remembering." She wanted to ask more, but there was a tightness in his shoulders that warned her off. Instead, she scanned the cabin. It was Spartan, but clean. A table with 2 chairs, a bunk in the corner, maps and tools hung neatly on one wall, a rifle above the door. This wasn't a hermit's shack. It was a hideout. Her eyes landed on a black duffel bag shoved beneath the table. The zipper was broken. Inside, she saw a roll of cash, a switchblade, and a pack of cigarettes tucked between folded clothes. Something about it chilled her. "What are you hiding from, Jesse?" He didn't flinch. "Same thing you are." "I'm not hiding." "Sure you are," he said, standing now. "No shoes, no phone, no coat, wandering through a snowstorm, bleeding and pregnant. That's not a woman out for a stroll. That's a woman running from something that damn near killed her." She swallowed hard. "Maybe I was just trying to die." He crossed the room, slow and deliberate, and leaned down until his face was inches from hers. She could smell cedar and ash on his breath. "You didn't give up," he said softly. "You crawled in the snow with a baby inside you. That's not someone looking to die. That's someone still clawing to live." Her pulse thudded in her throat. He reached past her. She stiffened, but he only grabbed the quilt and pulled it higher around her shoulders. His knuckles brushed her neck, and she flinched, not from fear, from heat. It bloomed low in her stomach. She hated how close he was, and how much she didn't want him to move. "You ever kill anyone?" she asked, trying to sound cold. "Yeah," he said, too calm. "Have you?" She hesitated. "Almost." He studied her face like he could read the spaces between her words. Then, to her surprise, he smiled. Just a small curl at the corner of his mouth. "I like you, Lena." "No, you don't," she snapped. "I do. You're mean as a rattler and twice as hard to scare." "Don't flirt with me." "I'm not," he said. "I'm warning you." She glared. "About what?" "You stay here much longer and I won't be able to pretend I don't want you." Lena's breath caught. There it was, the spark in his eyes, the weight of his words. It wasn't sweet or safe. It was dangerous. Like whiskey and fire and everything she'd promised herself to never trust again. But the worst part? Her body responded anyway. She turned her head, cheeks burning. "You're full of shit." Jesse just chuckled and walked back to his chair. "You hungry again?" he asked, as if nothing happened. She didn't answer. Because she was. But not for food. Later that night, when she thought he was asleep, Lena got out of bed. The wooden floor creaked under her bare feet. She tiptoed to the duffel bag, crouched low, and slowly pulled it open. Inside was more than she expected. Cash, fake IDs, maps with routes highlighted in red, a .38 snub-nose pistol, and a folded newspaper clipping. Local rancher's son faces no charges in death of former employee. She unfolded it, heart hammering. The man in the photo beside the article was Trevor's father. And below it, a smaller picture, grainy, faded, showed a younger Jesse Rook in an orange jumpsuit, hands cuffed, being shoved into a courthouse. Her stomach twisted. Jesse wasn't just hiding. He was planning something. Something that had everything to do with Trevor and her. She folded the paper back and crept to bed, heart thudding in her throat. She didn't sleep that night. Because now she had two secrets. The one she'd been running from, and the one she'd just uncovered. The morning sun came late and pale, leaking through the frostbitten windows like it didn't want to be there. Lena stood at the edge of the porch, wrapped in a heavy flannel jacket Jesse had given her, the hem falling just past her knees. It smelled like him, wood smoke, leather, and something male underneath. Her bare legs prickled from the cold, but she didn't move. She stared out at the snow-covered world, breath hanging in the air. The baby fluttered low in her belly. Every kick reminded her she didn't belong to herself anymore. And the man inside that cabin, he wasn't just a stranger anymore. He was becoming dangerous in ways she hadn't prepared for. Behind her, the door creaked open. She didn't turn. "You shouldn't be out here," Jesse said. "I needed air." "You needed pants," he muttered. She looked back over her shoulder. He stood in the doorway with a coffee mug in one hand, the other braced on the frame. No shirt, just sweatpants hanging low on his hips, his chest still damp from a towel slung over his shoulder. The scars on his torso caught the light like old rivers on a map. Heat flushed across her skin despite the wind. She turned back quickly. "You always watch people sleep?" she asked. He stepped onto the porch, handed her the coffee. "Only when they sneak around my cabin at night." Her fingers brushed his when she took the cup. They lingered. She didn't pull away. Neither did he. "You found the bag," he said flatly. "I did." He leaned against the porch rail, looking out at the trees. "You gonna ask about it?" "No." That surprised him. She could feel it in the silence. "I figured if you wanted me to know," she said, "you'd have told me." Jesse nodded once. Then his eyes cut to her legs. "Still gonna freeze those pretty knees off?" She smirked. "You offering to warm them?" His head tilted. "If I was, you'd already be inside." "Mo." She stared at him, challenging, inviting, regretting. Then she stepped past him and walked back inside. Later, she sat by the fire, flipping through a stack of old magazines, Guns and Ammo, Backwoods Living, a single dog-eared copy of Time from 2014. She'd read the same article 3 times and couldn't recall a word of it. Jesse moved around the cabin like he was trying not to exist. Quiet, efficient, carrying firewood, cleaning his rifle, sharpening knives, always close enough to feel, never close enough to touch. When she stood to stretch, his gaze followed the curve of her hips. She caught it. Let him know she caught it. His jaw tightened, but he didn't look away. She walked to the stove and bent down to check the pot. His eyes dropped. She smirked. "Hungry?" she asked. He paused. "Yeah." She straightened. "For food, I mean." His eyes didn't leave hers. "Sure." Her pulse kicked. She turned back to the stove fast, ladling out stew into bowls to keep her hands busy. They ate at the table, wooden, scarred. Between bites, the silence swelled with every stolen glance. "You always live alone?" she asked. Jesse nodded. "People talk too much, or lie." "You ever get lonely?" "Number I get left alone. Big difference." "Still hurts." He met her gaze. "You'd know." Something raw passed between them. Lena looked down at her food. "My ex said I was too needy, too emotional. Said I was too much for any real man to deal with." Jesse snorted. He sounds like a coward. He's a Carrington. They own everything west of Big Timber. Cattle, horses, banks, people. Jesse's eyes darkened. I know the name. I figured. He took a long drink of water, then set the cup down slowly. You were going to marry into that? I didn't want the money. I wanted out. I thought love would do it. And when you got pregnant? Her hand tensed on her spoon. He told me to get rid of it, said it'd ruin his image, his daddy's campaign. I said no. He said I'd ruined everything. And he dumped you in a snowstorm. She nodded. After he punched me hard enough to make sure I bled. Jesse stood so fast the chair scraped back on the wood floor. His hands were clenched. He walked to the window, breathing hard. Well, I'll kill him, he said low. You already were planning to, she answered. He looked over his shoulder. Not for that. Then for what? Jesse didn't speak for a long time. Then softly, my brother worked on their ranch. Took his own life, so that's what they said. But he wrote me before he died. Said he'd seen something that scared him. What did he see? Jesse stared at the snow outside. I think he saw Trevor do to someone else what he tried to do to you. Lena's throat went dry. They were quiet after that. The fire crackled. The wind moaned at the windows. When Jesse finally looked at her again, there was something unspoken between them. Rage, grief, protection, need. Not clean, not pretty. Real. He crossed the room slowly. Lena didn't move. He stopped just inches away. You're not the kind of woman I planned on saving, he said. And I'm sure as hell not the kind of man you should trust. Then what are we doing? He reached out, knuckles brushing the side of her jaw. She didn't flinch, didn't lean in either. I don't know, he whispered. But it feels like falling. She stepped back before the moment snapped. Oh, then maybe we should both catch ourselves before it gets worse. He watched her retreat toward the bunk. Too late for that, he murmured, but she was already turning away. It started with the sound of tires crunching ice. Lena was at the window, hands wrapped around a tin cup of reheated coffee, staring out over the pine-shadowed hills when the low growl of an engine cut through the quiet. A black pickup, government issue probably, no plates. She didn't speak. Jesse, she called instead, calm but low and sharp. He came from the back room fast, pulling a flannel over bare skin, pistol already in hand. When he saw the truck coming down the trail, something in him shifted. She saw it in his eyes, alert but not surprised. You expecting someone? She asked. He didn't answer. The truck stopped about 50 yards out. A man stepped out, bundled in a sheriff's parka, looked around, adjusted his belt. Then he started walking toward the cabin. Lena backed away from the window. Jesse turned and handed her a small revolver. Don't aim unless you plan to shoot, he said. She stared at it. What the hell is going on? Nah. Shut the blinds, he muttered. Stay behind the door. You didn't answer my... Lena. She stopped. Something in the way he said her name, low, protective, final, made her obey without thinking. He cracked the door just as the sheriff's boots hit the first step. Well, I'll be damned, the lawman said. Didn't think I'd find you all the way out here. Jesse didn't smile. You didn't. The sheriff raised a brow. We had a report someone saw smoke. Thought it was poachers. Funny how those reports always lead to trouble. I'm just trying to stay warm." The sheriff leaned a bit to the side, trying to peek into the cabin. "Alone?" "Wouldn't matter if I wasn't." There was a pause. Tension settled like a wolf at the door. "Listen, Rook. You got a lot of people still asking about you. About what happened back in Billings. That judge's boy you put in the ground didn't stay buried in the papers for long. He came at me with a pipe wrench. I hit back. You'd have done the same. Except I'd still be on the grid, not living off propane and paranoia." Jesse's hand didn't move from the doorframe. "You here to bring me in?" The sheriff studied him a moment, then shook his head. "Nah," he said. "Not today. Storm's coming in. Just figured I'd remind you how thin that ice under your feet really is." He tipped his hat and walked back toward the truck. Lena stepped out after the door clicked shut. Jesse was breathing hard. "He knew your name," she said. "Lot of people do. You gonna tell me what really happened in Billings?" "No," he said. "Not tonight." She flinched like he'd slapped her. "You think I'm just gonna stay here, sleep in your bed, eat your food, and keep pretending you're not some time bomb waiting to blow?" "More," he turned to her slow. "You like pretending, don't you?" "What the hell is that supposed to mean?" "You pretend you're tough. You pretend you don't want me. Hell, you're pretending right now you're not scared to death of what comes next." She stepped in close, eyes sharp as ice. "Don't psychoanalyze me, Jesse. You don't know the first goddamn thing about me." He didn't back away. "I know how your lips part when I get too close. I know how your pulse jumps when I touch you. I know you keep looking at my mouth when you think I don't see." She slapped him, hard. Her palm echoed off his jaw. He didn't flinch. They stood there, breathing hard, fire crackling, wind pressing against the window. Then, just as fast, she grabbed his shirt front and shoved him backward. He stumbled a step, then caught her by the wrist. Not hard, not rough, but enough to stop her. Their eyes locked. "I hate how you make me feel," she said, voice shaking. He leaned in, his lips grazing the shell of her ear. "Good," he whispered. "So do I." She stepped back, breathing hard. "We can't keep doing this." "Doing what?" "Circling each other like this, like wolves." He gave a slow nod. "Then maybe one of us needs to bite." She turned away. "Don't." His voice followed her. "What are you really scared of, Lena? That I'll hurt you? Or that I won't?" She froze in the doorway to the bedroom, didn't answer. Didn't have to. Later, the storm rolled in like a freight train. Snow slapped against the roof. Trees groaned under the weight of wind and ice. The cabin felt smaller now, the air between them thicker. Jesse sat on the floor, loading rounds into the revolver she hadn't returned. Lena stood by the fire, arms crossed, watching the flames like they held answers. "I had a plan," he said finally, "before you showed up." She looked over. "Let me guess, it involved violence and regret." He smiled. "Barely. It involved justice." "Same thing, most times. I was going to take something from the Carringtons, something they couldn't buy back, hurt them like they hurt me. And now?" He looked up. "Now you're here." She didn't respond. He stood, walked over, stopped just close enough for the heat between them to start all over again. "You being here changes things," he said. "I didn't ask to be here." "I know. But I'm not running anymore," she said. "Not from Trevor, not from this baby, and sure as hell not from you." The wind howled outside, like it wanted in. Jesse lifted a hand, slow, asking permission without asking. He touched her cheek, his thumb brushing the spot where his name had made her flinch earlier. You should get some sleep," he said. She leaned in just enough to feel his breath. "So should you." Then she turned and walked to the back room, pulse pounding in her ears. The storm wasn't the only thing she'd have to survive tonight. The storm passed by morning, leaving the world glazed in ice. Every tree branch bowed under the weight of it, creaking like it might snap if the wind dared return. Lena stood by the barn, breath fogging in the cold, her boots crunching in the crusted snow. Jesse's flannel jacket hung off her shoulders, his scent still stitched deep into the fabric. She wore it like armor, like memory, like sin. Inside the barn, Jesse saddled 2 horses in silence. "Where'd you get them?" she asked. He didn't look up. "Stole them." "Whoa." She blinked. "Seriously?" "Not from a priest or an orphanage, if that's what you're asking." He smirked faintly. "They were part of a repo job gone sideways. They've been mine since." Lena stepped closer, trailing her fingers along the dark flank of the mare. "She's beautiful. She bites. She has good taste." Jesse chuckled once, a low, rough sound that made something shift in her belly. Not the baby, not fear, just want. He looked up, catching her stare. She didn't drop it. "I need to get out of here," she said. His jaw tightened. "No one's stopping you." "You are." A pause stretched between them like barbed wire. He walked toward her, slow, every step deliberate. Not a threat, but not safe either. When he stopped in front of her, she felt the warmth coming off him like fire from a stove. His eyes searched hers, hard, then soft, then something else altogether. "You think I'm keeping you here?" "I think," she said, voice low, "that I don't want to leave, and that scares the hell out of me." He reached up and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. His fingers lingered on her jaw. "Me too." For a second she thought he'd kiss her. God, she wanted him to. Instead, he stepped back. "We ride," he said. "Saddle up." The mountains were all silver and silence. They rode through narrow trails where frost-laced pine needles hung like chandeliers. Snow crunched beneath the horses' hooves, and Lena's thighs burned from riding too long. Still, she didn't complain. Not once. Jesse led without speaking much, his body language sharp, alert. He rode like a man who expected trouble, who invited it. They stopped at a ridge that overlooked a wide stretch of valley below. Smoke curled up from a cluster of buildings nestled between hills. Trevor's family ranch, the Carrington estate, all fences and silence and money soaked into the dirt. Jesse handed her the binoculars. "You ever been down there?" he asked. She shook her head. "They always kept me in town. Said the ranch wasn't a place for women who ask questions." He glanced at her. "Sounds like a perfect place to bury secrets." She looked through the binoculars, spotted the big white house, the curved barns, the stretch of snow-draped pasture. It looked peaceful from up here, like something out of a postcard. But her skin crawled. Jesse was quiet a long time. "Then, when I first met your ex, I didn't know who he was. Just thought he was another cocky ranch brat." She turned sharply. "You met Trevor?" Jesse nodded. "At a bar, 4 years ago. He sucker punched a guy over a girl who told him no. I dragged him off before he did real damage." She blinked. "You saved him?" "I didn't know he was a Carrington. Didn't know he was evil yet." The wind picked up. Cold sliced across her cheeks. "I used to think I was the lucky one," she whispered. "Pretty dresses, fancy dinners, men with hands like silk. But those hands turned to fists, real fast." Jesse looked at her. "And now?" "Now I prefer scars over suits." He watched her, quiet, a slow ache building between them. "If we go back," she said, "if we face them, what then?" "I never planned that far," he admitted. "Just figured I'd burn it all down." She handed him the binoculars. "Then maybe we planned something better." He tucked them into his coat. "Like what?" "Like a life that doesn't end in fire." Jesse didn't smile. But he didn't argue either. They made camp that night in an abandoned ranger station. The wood stove smoked like a grudge, and the walls still held the ghost of old conversations. Jesse laid out bedrolls on opposite sides of the floor. Lena watched him from across the room, where she sat brushing out her damp hair. "You really going to sleep all the way over there?" she asked. He didn't look up. "Wouldn't be proper to get close." "You care about proper now?" "Lena." She stood slow. Walked across the room until she stood in front of him. He stayed seated on the bedroll, his eyes tracking her like a wolf watches the wind. "You're not him," she said. "You don't scare me." "You should," he said. "I've done things I can't take back. I've had things done to me I can't forget." He reached out. His hand hovered at her hip, then lowered, gently, like he didn't trust himself. "You come any closer," he said, voice raw, "and I won't stop at kissing you." "I didn't ask you to." His fingers tightened. But he let go. "Not like this," he whispered. "Not while you're still bleeding from someone else." She inhaled shakily. "Then lie to me," she said. He met her eyes. "I don't lie to people I want to keep." She stepped back. Not because she wanted to, but because she had to. That night, Jesse lay awake staring at the ceiling while Lena curled under blankets across the room. Neither of them slept. Both of them dreamed of what might come next, and feared it would be everything they were finally brave enough to want. Lena didn't hear the shot. She felt it. The sharp crack of air, the way the trees went silent after, like even the birds held their breath. Then Jesse dropped. He didn't cry out, just buckled forward in the saddle and slid off like a sack of flour. His horse bolted. Lena screamed. "Jesse!" She jumped off her own mount, knees sinking into snow. He was crumpled on his side, a smear of red blooming across the back of his coat. "Blood. Too much." "No, no." She dropped beside him, pressing her hands to the wound. His eyes were open, barely. "Stay with me. Damn it, Jesse." His mouth moved, but nothing came out. That's when she heard the second horse. She spun, heart slamming into her throat. A man rode into the clearing, rifle still raised. Long black duster, clean-shaven, cold eyes. "You must be Lena," he said, like they were meeting at a church social. She stared, panting, hands still slick with Jesse's blood. "Who the hell are you?" The man dismounted, calm, deliberate. "Name's Kane. I work for the Carringtons." Of course he did. He stepped closer. "Trevor sends his love." Lena stood slowly. The revolver Jesse had given her was tucked into the back of her waistband. Her fingers found it, smooth and cold. "You're not taking me back," she said. Kane smiled. "No, darling. I'm just here to clean up a mess." Then he raised the rifle again. She moved before she thought, drew the pistol and fired. The shot cracked across the clearing. Kane jerked back, hit in the shoulder. He stumbled, cursed, dropped the gun. Lena didn't wait. She ran to Jesse, grabbed his arm. "Get up," she hissed. "We're not dying out here." He groaned, coughed. Blood touched his lips. She pulled him with everything she had. "Jesse, move!" Somehow, they made it to the ranger station. She slammed the door, locked it, dragged furniture in front of it while Jesse bled across the wood floor. Outside, Kane cursed, shouted, then silence. He was regrouping, or retreating, or waiting for backup. Lena knelt beside Jesse, hands trembling as she peeled back his coat. The bullet went clean through his side, high but dangerous. She didn't know what she was doing, but she did it anyway. Ripped blankets, packed the wound, tied it tight. Jesse's hand caught hers, weak, burning. "You're good at this," he murmured. "You're gonna live," she said. "You owe me dinner." He chuckled. It turned to a cough. Lena brushed his hair back. "Don't close your eyes. You close your eyes, I'll shoot you myself." Night fell heavy and cruel. Lena stayed up, pacing, watching the window, pistol never leaving her grip. Jesse slept fitfully, fever blooming. She whispered to him when he twitched, let him grip her wrist when he needed to anchor himself. And when the quiet became too loud, she finally admitted the truth. "I took money," she said softly, "from Trevor's safe. I knew where the code was. I was planning to disappear before the baby came." Jesse didn't stir. She sat down beside him. "I thought I'd run, get as far as I could, change my name, start fresh." Her voice cracked. "But then I met you." She waited. Still nothing. "Do you hate me?" One eye cracked open. "No." "You should." He reached up, touched her cheek. "I knew." Her breath caught. "What?" "I knew you took the money, found the envelope. I didn't care." "Why?" "Because you were trying to survive. Same as me." She leaned over him, forehead pressed to his. "I don't want to run anymore," she whispered. "I don't want to lose you." Then they kissed. Not desperate, not perfect. Just two broken people choosing each other in a world that had tried to bury them both. By dawn, Jesse was stable. The snow had stopped, and the world felt strangely calm, like the eye of a storm. Lena stepped outside, revolver tucked in her coat. She walked the perimeter, boots crunching in ice, heart sharp with purpose. Kane hadn't finished the job. But she would. When she came back inside, Jesse was awake, propped up against the wall. "You look like hell," he rasped. She smirked. "You're not exactly a bouquet of roses." He smiled faintly. "What's next?" "We end it," she said. "You sure?" She helped him sit up. "I'm done letting people decide what happens to me, to this baby, to us." Jesse looked at her like she was fire and mercy rolled into one. Then he nodded. "We ride at dusk." They rode into Carrington Valley as the sun dipped behind the hills, setting the snow on fire. Jesse leaned heavy in the saddle, his coat dark with dried blood, jaw clenched to hold in the pain. He hadn't said much since they left the ranger station, and Lena didn't push. Every minute on horseback cost him something, but he kept going. She rode beside him, one hand near her revolver, eyes scanning the hills. Her body was sore, her back ached, but her heart beat steady now, stronger than fear. They weren't running anymore. They were coming home. or what passed for it in the kind of place that buried its secrets beneath white fences and blood-soaked handshakes. Carrington Ranch sprawled in the distance, all manicured fields and proud barns, but from the ridge it looked hollow, pretty bones with a rotten heart. "You sure you're up for this?" Lena asked, glancing at Jesse. He didn't answer right away, just looked at her like she was the only thing holding him together. "If I die today," he said, "I want it to mean something. It to mean—" She reached across the gap between their horses and took his hand. "Then don't die," she said. "Live. With me." His throat bobbed once. Then he nodded. They tied the horses behind the old feed barn and made their way through the shadows. The ranch house glowed golden in the dusk, warm light spilling through the tall windows like everything inside was good and clean. Lena knew better. They reached the back porch just as Trevor stepped out onto it, phone to his ear. He paused mid-sentence when he saw them, froze like a snake had just slithered across his boots. "Lena," he said slowly, eyes scanning her swollen belly, then Jesse. "What the hell are you doing here?" "I came to return something," she said. Trevor raised an eyebrow. "And what's that?" "Your conscience." Then she shot him. Not in the chest, not in the head, but in the knee. He went down screaming, the porch boards catching his blood like they'd been thirsty. Jesse moved fast despite the wound, kicking Trevor's gun away, then hauling him up by the collar. "You remember me?" Jesse asked, eyes blazing. "You remember Danny Rook?" Trevor's lip curled. "That's your freak brother?" "He was 17, Jesse growled. "And your old man had him buried behind the stables." Trevor laughed, breathless. He offed himself. Couldn't handle the job. "You raped the housekeeper," Jesse said. "Danny saw it. You made sure he didn't talk." "I was a kid," Trevor spat. "So was he," Jesse said, and punched him across the mouth. Lena stepped in, her voice steel. "I read the report. I read your daddy's ledger. I know who paid off the coroner." Trevor blinked. "You think anyone's going to believe you? You're a crazy pregnant ex. You're a junkie's brother. You're nothing." "We're enough," Jesse said. Footsteps thundered from inside the house. More men. Security. Lena backed up, pistol raised. Jesse tossed Trevor's limp body at the doorway just as two armed ranch hands stormed outside. "Back off," Jesse roared. "We've got evidence, emails, records, copies stashed in 3 counties. You touch us, this all goes public." The men hesitated. "You gonna die for Trevor Carrington?" Lena asked. Silence. Then one of them turned around and walked back inside. Smart. An hour later, the sheriff arrived. A different one this time. A younger one. He looked from Jesse to Trevor, still writhing, then to Lena. "You sure about all this?" he asked her. "I am," she said, "and I'm ready to testify." The sheriff gave a slow nod. "Then let's do it right." As they loaded Trevor into the ambulance, Jesse leaned on the porch railing, face pale, sweat on his brow. Lena stood beside him, arm looped through his. "That was reckless," he muttered. "So is loving you," she said. He looked at her. She kissed him, software full. A promise. 2 weeks later, Jesse stood on the front steps of a little cabin on the edge of town, freshly painted, with a new roof and a handmade sign above the porch. Rook Ranch, EST someday. Lena stepped outside, holding her belly, hair tied back, cheeks glowing from the cold. "You ready?" she asked. Jesse nodded. "I've never been more." She smiled. "Then come inside," she said. "Dinner's getting cold, and so is my heart, if you keep standing there looking like some damn storybook outlaw." He grinned, walked up the steps, and kissed the woman who saved him. The first spring rain hit like a sigh after a long cry, gentle, quiet, warm enough to melt what winter tried to bury. Lena stood at the edge of the field, bare feet sinking into soft mud, the hem of her cotton dress damp and clinging to her calves. Her belly was full and low now, any day. She cradled it with one hand and shaded her eyes with the other, watching Jesse repair the old fence line. He worked slow, careful, one arm still stiff from the bullet wound. But he hadn't complained once. Not about the pain, not about the weight of what they'd done. He just kept showing up. Hammer, sweat, grit. Love, she thought, watching him. This is what it really looks like. Not diamonds. Not promises. Just a man choosing you at your worst, again and again, until you start believing maybe you're worth it. That night, the power went out. Wind howled across the plains, and lightning lit up the tiny cabin in quick, nervous bursts. Jesse lit 2 oil lamps, setting one on the kitchen counter and the other on the nightstand beside their bed. Lena winced as she lowered herself onto the mattress. "I swear, this kid's trying to claw their way out." Jesse handed her a cup of warm tea. That, or they're just eager to meet their mom. She smirked. Poor thing doesn't know what kind of world they're walking into. Jesse sat beside her. "Doesn't matter. We'll meet 'em halfway." They stayed quiet a moment. The storm pressed against the windows like it wanted in. But the fire was strong, the cabin was solid, and Jesse's hand on her thigh said, "We're safe now." "Do you still think about it?" she asked, not looking at him. "That night?" He nodded. "Every time I close my eyes." "Me too." "But then I open them," he said, leaning in to brush his lips against her shoulder. "And you're still here." Her throat tightened. He pulled back enough to look at her. "I never thought I'd get to be a father," he said, "or a man worth staying for." She cupped his face. "You weren't born bad, Jesse. You were just born into a bad world." "I wanted to burn it all down," he whispered. "You did. Now we're building something from the ashes." The contractions started just after midnight. She tried to hide the first one, brushed it off. Then came the second, harder, and the third left her doubled over the kitchen table, breath coming in sharp gasps. "Jesse!" she shouted. He was there in an instant, hands on her back, voice steady. "We've got this. You hear me? I'm right here." He laid her on the bed, soaked towels, boiled water. Read the old medical book they picked up at the feed store, and when the pain got sharp enough to make her scream, he let her squeeze his hand until his knuckles turned white. "You're doing good," he said, brushing sweaty hair from her brow. "Don't lie to me," she growled. He laughed. "Then I'll say this. After this baby's out, you're never gonna lift another damn hay bale again." She screamed again. "Good," she panted, "because I was never good at lifting the damn things anyway." The baby came just before dawn. A girl. Wrinkled, red, loud. Jesse held her with hands that had built fences and broken jaws, but now cradled life like it was something holy. "She's perfect," he whispered. Lena nodded, too tired to cry, too full to speak. They named her Hope. Because that's what she was. Days passed, slow and soft. Neighbors came by, folks who'd heard the story, who once looked at Jesse like he was trouble and now looked at him like he was a man. They brought food, firewood, a crib someone carved by hand. Forgiveness, Lena realized, sometimes looked like lasagna and fresh-cut logs. They started fixing up the barn together. Jesse hung a swing from the porch. Lena planted a garden. Hope slept on Jesse's chest most nights. Her little fist curled around the collar of his shirt like she already knew what it meant to hold on tight. And when Lena looked at them, her outlaw, her daughter, this broken patch of land that was starting to bloom, she felt it in her bones. She had survived the storm. She had found her place. Not because she was rescued, but because she'd fought her way back to life, tooth and nail, and chose to stay. Final image, period. A slow pan across the Montana plains, wildflowers swaying, a clothesline fluttering, a woman standing barefoot in the grass, holding a baby on her hip, watching a man mend fence posts with one arm and a quiet smile. They're not perfect, but they're free. And sometimes, that's enough. If this story pulled at your heart the way it pulled at ours, don't write off just yet. Go ahead and tap that like button. It helps more folks find tales like Snowblood. And if you're the kind that still believes in grit, redemption, and love born out of fire, subscribe to the channel and saddle up with us for the next one. We've got more stories coming that'll break your heart and stitch it right back together. This is SaddleHorn Stories, where the West is still wild and love still leaves a scar. Comment below and let us know what moment hit hardest for you. We'll be waiting by the fire.